let's talk about the Jets. What a remarkable 11-game win streak. Now, last night, of course, we know it came to an end, 2-1, losing to Nashville. But the Jets are atop the NHL. They're in a back-and-forth battle for first place with the Washington Capitals. The question is, are the Jets getting the respect they deserve for where they're standing right now? Edward Fraser's managing editor of the Hockey News. We reached him to get a bit of a different look at the team's season up to this point. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for being with us. So, we had this at the beginning of the year, right? This big streak, and then in the middle, a little bit tough, and then back we bounced, and they're looking amazing now. How do you describe how this season's gone for the Jets so far?
Oh, I think it's been beyond anyone's expectations. I think everybody thought the Jets would be maybe a middle of the pack club, but, battle for the President's Trophy race. This team has performed as well as anybody in the league has, obviously, throughout the years. Coach Scott Arniel coming into the beginning of the year, done a phenomenal job. So, yeah, they've been great so far.
And what's key to that, and what's key to making it last?
And yeah, that's pretty obvious. Connor Hellebuyck. I mean, this team is really, it's his team. I mean, two-time Vezina winner. He'll win a third this year. As good as the offense has been, it's a balanced team. They've got really good stars up front. They've got depth scoring. Defense is really good, but this team is Connor Hellebuyck's team through and through. So to me, that's the key for this team. The power play has also been really, really good, and that always helps. But to me, if you're looking at the one thing, it's Connor Hellebuyck.
As a Winnipegger, I got to say this is my complete bias, but I always feel like we never get no matter how the Jets do, we never get discussed in the same circles as other teams. It's almost like we're seen as like it's somehow a blip that we're doing like this well, and that, it's not the real deal, or at some point we wait for the other shoe to drop. Is this year, are the Jets getting the respect that they need in these conversations when we dare to start thinking about a cup run?
No, they're not. But it's also fair. This is a team that's made playoffs in 6 of the past 7 seasons, but in that span, they've only made one conference final, and they've been blown out in the first round the past 2 years. So sports is a show-me event, and the Jets haven't shown anything in the playoffs. So they're going to need to win before they get the respect they deserve. Will it be this year? According to odds makers, they've got the 6th best odds. We're just putting together our preliminary postseason power rankings. We've got them 3rd, but they're not even first in their division. We're picking Dallas to win it all this year. Maybe some things change after the deadline. I mean, Kevin Cheveldayoff has done a phenomenal job in the past in adding pieces. They haven't clicked yet, but if he's able to make moves, maybe they do move into that top spot. So, no, I think that this is a team that's shown so much promise for so long, but just haven't been able to achieve it. So I think until they actually do, and to me, I don't know whether it's reaching a conference final, if it's reaching the cup. I don't know what that level of success needs to be, but I do need to know they need to show a lot more than getting bounced in the first round.
How does a team get through the first round? I mean, maybe that's like the $1 million question, but I've been so many years watching the Jets in the playoffs and thinking this is the year. And then there's almost this thing that happens, and it doesn't. And our teams have changed, our players have changed, the coaches changed. The teams we're playing have changed, and sometimes you're just against a big momentum team and you lose, and I get that. But on the other hand, when you look at the Jets themselves, sometimes there's this sort of fatigue that sets in. How do you push past that self-fulfilling prophecy that the Jets aren't going to crack that round?
Yeah, we talked about him earlier, Connor Hellebuyck. That's the one part of his game. He's won the Vezina trophies. He's been phenomenal in the regular season, but he's been, let's be frank, he's been poor in the playoffs. So I think he's critical. What gives me optimism about this year being different is the fact of how good he was in the Four Nations this year. He was absolutely brilliant for the Americans. I think it could have been a lot worse in the final for the Americans if he wasn't so good. So he's proved now that he can play in those big games. Whether that translates to the playoffs, we'll see. But to me, it should give him and his team confidence that they can succeed when it's on the line.
Beyond Hellebuyck, who else were some of the surprising standouts on the team for you this year on the Jets, and who's stepping up maybe now?
Yeah, I think they've got a lot of depth players. There's obviously the Scheifele's, the Kyle Connors, but to me, it's the depth that they've been able to play with that have really made the difference. Josh Morrissey last year, he was getting the Norrisy tag applied to him. He hasn't been as good this year, but still a solid number one defenseman. Neil Pionk, I think, is a guy who doesn't get the respect across the league, who deserves it. So to me, it's really been the depth that this team has had that Scott Arniel's been able to employ. That's really been the biggest surprise because they don't have the real standout star. I mean, I don't mean to disrespect their top end players, but there's not a McDavid, there's not a McKinnon in their lineup, but they have workman-like stars. And they have a lot of them, and that can go a very long way. And I think that kind of rings through on their power play, which is, far and away the best in the league. So that's what's impressed me most about this team is their workman-like attitude, their depth, and the stars who don't necessarily have the big names but continue to perform night in and night out.
Well, we'll see what happens next, Edward. Thank you very much for being with us this morning.
Thanks so much for having me.
That's Edward Fraser. He's managing editor of the Hockey News on live with us on CBC on Zoom. The Jets are back here in Winnipeg, by the way, tomorrow night against the Philadelphia Flyers. Puck drop is at 6 o'clock.